Hi, you're at level 2 out of 30 easy steps to understand everything you need to know about Einstein's theory on special relativity. Have you always been interested in what it is all about, but you were afraid of the math involved? Then this lesson is for you. Want to give it a try? I think you can do it. Yes, you can. It's true. GP, hit it! Today we are going to talk about the secret happiness formula, which will also give us an easy introduction into algebra. If you're new to the story, my name is Tom and I'm on a mission. And my mission is to explain everything you need to know about Einstein's theory on special relativity in 30 easy levels. If you want to know more about these levels, I recommend you watch level number 1, in which I introduced them all. But today we're in happiness mode. In level number 1, I introduced two characters. Number 1, the gracious physicist. She's gracious, she's a physicist, and I call her GP. I also introduced the evil mathematician. Here he is. And both of them are conducting an experiment and do some modeling. So, today, GP, our gracious physicist, is doing an experiment on happiness. And here is the table on the board in which she wants to capture the results of her experiments. She wants to find out what makes me happy and what doesn't make me happy, and if so, to what degree does it make me happy or sad. And the first thing she noticed is that if she eats chocolate, she's happy. So the first variable she's looking at is chocolate. She had one piece and she was thinking, how happy am I? And she said, well, it feels like 100 happiness points. What is a happiness point? It's not really important for the story. She feels like 100. Then she had another piece of chocolate. And again, she felt like, how happy am I? And it was like 200 happiness points. And the third time, she felt like 300 happiness points. You could have guessed that one, right? Then she ran out of chocolates, but the door rang. And there was a guy delivering a bouquet of flowers from an anonymous admirer. And she was ecstatic. Flowers make me happy. Flowers. And she felt like 300 happiness points for the first bouquet she got. But a few hours later, the doorbell rang again and she got another bouquet of flowers. And she felt like 1200 happiness points. And yeah, it was really a good day for her. Number 3 came and she felt like 2700 happiness points. So this was a really good day for her. She already had 300 happiness points from the chocolate and 2700 from the flowers. Good day. But then it started to rain. And after the first hour of rain, her happiness dropped with 500 happiness points. And after the second hour, it dropped another 500. So in total, 1000. And 3 hours of rain, minus 1500. So this is the experiment GP did. Now let's take this one level further. Let's start by repeating what was on the whiteboard. Here it is. Then GP goes to the evil mathematician and she asks him, can you give me a model that fits my data? And he says, sure I can, but I don't like tables. I like graphs. So he draws a grid. Vertically happiness points, horizontally 1, 2, 3. And he's going to plot her data points in the graph. Brown ones for the chocolates, green ones for the flowers, blue ones for the hours of rain. Again, we haven't done any math or algebra so far. We just did an experiment, wrote down the results in a table, and then plotted the results in a graph. So far so good. But now a little bit of evilness comes into play from the mathematician. He looks at the chocolate points and he thinks, well, maybe I can fit those points with a straight line. And yeah, it seems reasonable. He tries to do the same for the flowers, but no, a straight line doesn't work. So he has to use some secret evil curve. There it is. Looking at hours of rain, he can get away again with a straight line. But it's a little bit evil. And why? Because he introduced a lot of assumptions here. He could have chosen a million different curves hitting these points. And by choosing the curves or lines he did, he made a lot of assumptions. But if we look at the graph, it doesn't look that silly, right? It looks like it's pretty on point. So let's forgive the evil mathematician. But then he does a second thing. He summarizes the story in secret symbols, in an equation. And that's just evil. Because that's just, if you haven't done this a million times, it's a little bit fast. So let's take this a few steps back. He could have told GP, well, if I look at the chocolate results, if you multiply the number of chocolates you ate with 100, I get the data from your experiment. You can do this yourself. And that's true. I can fully understand that story. He also could have said, if I look at the flowers and if I multiply the number of bouquets you received by itself and then multiply it by 300, I get your data points. Let's do this for the second bouquet. She got 2 bouquets, so it's 2 multiplied by 2 equals 4, multiplied by 300 equals 1200. Yeah, that seems to fit, and it does for the other experiments as well. He also could have told her the story about rain and said, well, if you multiply the number of hours of rain with minus 500, I get your points. So, let's repeat these stories. So far we went from an experiment to a table, to plotted points in a graph, to curves, to 3 stories. And I think it should be easy. Now we get a little bit more into the algebra. Let's write an equation, but this time a readable one. Let's say happiness is a function of, or has variables chocolates, flowers and hours of rain. And it equals 100 multiplied by the number of chocolates plus 300 multiplied by the number of flowers minus 500 multiplied by the hours of rain. I think that's pretty much what the stories told us, right? So far so good. So how do we go from this into an equation with algebra in it? Let's look at the animation. I'm hitting play and here it goes. So, let's rewind and see what happened. The first thing what happens is that the happiness is replaced with an H. Multiplied by chocolates is just multiplied by a C. multiplied by flowers is substituted with an F for flowers. Okay, I can still follow. With a 2 on top of it. And the rain multiplied by rain is replaced by an R. That is what happened. And then we get to the full equation. So this is a little bit of algebra, where we take a readable, understandable story into something that's totally unreadable. Next, substitute and shovel. It's a big part of algebra. Let's see how this works. In this case, GP, the physicist, tells the evil mathematician, it will rain tomorrow for 2 hours and I'm not expecting any more flowers, but I still want to end up with 2,500 happiness points by the end of the day. How many chocolates should I eat? And that's an answer we can get from the model by substitute and shovel. Let's look at the animation first and then I will rewind. There you go. She needs to eat 35 pieces of chocolate. Let's rewind and see how this works. So, the first thing that happens is substitution. The evil mathematician substitutes the variables h for happiness and the variables f for flower and the variable r for rain with the numbers he knows. He just pushes them out. That's step 1. That's a substitution. Now he cleans things up. 300 times 0 times 0. Normal people would say that's 0. No, not evil mathematicians. They will probably say something like, it's definitely 0. So let's get rid of it. 500 times 2 is easy. It's 1,000. So far so good. This was the substitution part. Now we are going to shovel. We want to isolate the C for chocolates because then we have our answer to the question asked by GP. So what we can do in algebra is we can add stuff to the left and right hand side of the equation. And we can just do whatever we feel like as long as we do it on both ends. In this case we have chosen to add 1,000, and the good thing is that then we can get rid of the 1,000, the minus 1,000 on the right hand side of the equation. There it goes. 1,000 plus 2,500 we can replace with 3,500, and now we are left with the 100. We still want to isolate the C by shoveling. How do we get rid of the 100? Well, we could divide by 100 both left and right side of the equation, and there it goes. And that's it. So this is a little bit of algebra, substitute and shovel. We will do this a lot on the Einstein mountain, but it will be no more difficult than the example just showed. What will make it not difficult but tough is that we will use huge equations, big stories, and we will substitute stories into stories, and we will do a lot of shuffling. But from a complexity point of view, it's not complex. You just need to put in the patience and the courage and be really curious about the result. So, you've made it. You can relax now. Algebra, formerly the study of mathematical symbols and the rules for manipulating those. We have seen one secret symbol. It was the 2, the exponent. Flowers times flowers was f times 2. We've seen variables like the h for happiness, the f for flowers, etc. I found this definition online, And it also said algebra is much clearer and easier than the older method, where we just wrote down everything in words. As you can understand, mathematicians are evil. I totally disagree with this statement. It's not easier and it's not clearer. It's faster. And if you've done it a million times, you can probably go faster through your stories, but it's not clearer and it's definitely not easier. I have a different definition. Maybe it's a conspiracy theory. Mathematicians, they don't want to know how simple things are, and unfortunately, people drop math in high school. You could also say that mathematicians are a little bit lazy, right? They want to use short symbols and summarize stories. You could also imagine maybe they are very insecure. You know, if people are insecure, they probably invent stuff like secret languages, secret symbols, just to feel special. No, I'm joking. I mean, algebra is, of course, the first environmental conscious math, and it reduces the use of paper, ink and toner, which is good for the planet. That's why they did it. No, they didn't. No jokes. I strongly believe algebra is great. It's not that difficult. You have to be precise, you have to have courage, you have to have patience, but great things come from algebra, as we will learn on the mountain. Congratulations! You've made it all the way to the end of level number 2. I want to thank you for watching and hope to see you at level number 3. GP, hit it one more time.